The first scream didn't come from her. It came from me. Not aloud. Not in front of the 70-plus guests packed into the pastel-decorated hall, the balloons bobbing in the stale December air, the old baby banner hanging crooked above the dessert table. No, the scream tore through my chest the moment I opened the envelope in my car, minutes before entering the building. A silent, raw, animal sound that scraped against the bones of who I thought I was. Of who I thought we were. Inside the envelope was a DNA report. And inside the report was a sentence that ended my marriage. Probability of paternity, 0%. My hands were trembling so violently that I almost dropped it. For a moment, I forgot to breathe, forgot my name, forgot that the woman everyone inside was celebrating, my wife, was carrying a child that wasn't mine. A child I had painted nursery walls for. A child I had cried over when the doctors said her heartbeat was strong. A child who had been, until this moment, the center of every future I'd ever imagined. Her baby, but not mine. I leaned back in the driver's seat, rain tapping against the windshield like impatient fingers. The world outside blurred. The air felt too thin, as if the universe had suddenly shrunk around me. I should have walked away right then. Driven off. Cut ties. Let her be exposed by life, not by me. But betrayal doesn't make you noble. It makes you raw. It makes you dangerous. My phone buzzed. Emily, where are you? Babe, everyone's asking. The cake is here. Hurry, red hot hash. I stared at her message for a long moment, my throat closing. My wife, my cheating wife, my pregnant, glowing, social media perfect wife, who had spent the past 7 months making me feel like the luckiest man alive. A second message came in. Emily, please don't be late. This is important to me. Important. The irony tasted like blood. I folded the report neatly, slipping it into the inner pocket of my jacket, right above my heart. Appropriate, since that's exactly where it felt like the knife had gone in. Then I stepped out of the car. The baby shower venue, an event hall Emily had insisted on because the lighting is perfect for pictures, buzzed like a hornet's nest. Laughter, glasses clinking, the squeals of friends who hadn't seen each other in months. A pastel dream, a celebration of motherhood, innocence, beginnings. I walked in and felt every eye shift toward me, not because they knew, but because I was late, and Emily hated late. Her face lit up when she spotted me, the way it always had. She waddled over, her hands cupping her round belly, cheeks flushed, eyes glassy with excitement. Finally, she laughed, throwing her arms around me. The scent of lavender lotion and baby powder clung to her. I was starting to think you'd ditch your own child shower. I swallowed the rising bitterness. Wouldn't miss it for the world, I said. My voice almost broke on the last word. She didn't hear it, or didn't want to. Emily turned back to the room and announced proudly, "My husband's here. Okay, everyone, let's start the photos." Cameras flashed. People clapped. I stood behind her, hands on her belly, posing for pictures I knew I'd never look at again. Every smile felt like glass cutting the inside of my mouth. I watched her laugh. Radiant, blissful, completely at ease. How long had she been lying to me? And with who? I'd learned the truth by accident. 2 months ago, a routine hospital test didn't match my blood type with the baby's. The doctor brushed it off as a clerical error. Emily had acted confused, unsettled, but when the doctor left the room, she couldn't look at me. Something in her eyes flickered. Fear, guilt, something darker. That's when doubt began to rot through me. I told myself I was being irrational, that pregnancy changed emotions, that Emily loved me, that she would never. But doubt is a seed that doesn't stop growing once it's planted. Tonight, I had the final proof. As the games went on, guessing the baby food, writing wishes on tiny pink cards, I drifted through the crowd like a ghost. Everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. She's glowing. Man, you're gonna be a great father. She adores you. Every compliment was a knife twisted deeper. At one point, Emily's best friend, Melissa, looped her arm through mine. "She's so happy, you know," she said softly. "She keeps saying you're her safe place." Safe place. Right. I looked at Emily across the room. She was laughing with 2 co-workers, her hand brushing instinctively over her belly as if protecting the life inside. The life that wasn't mine. A wave of nausea swept through me. "Excuse me," I muttered, moving toward the hallway. I needed air, space, silence. But instead, I ran into Daniel. Tall, charming, Emily's co-worker. The man she claimed was just a friend. The man who texted her at 2 a.m. about work emergencies. The man she laughed a little too loudly with at office dinners. He had a gift bag in his hands. "Hey," he said, grinning. "Congrats, man. Big day." I stared at him, feeling my pulse from behind my eyes. "Yeah," I said. "Huge day." He clapped my shoulder. "Too familiar. Too warm. You're going to be an incredible dad." My jaw tightened. His eyes flickered briefly. A flash of something I couldn't read. Or maybe didn't want to. Had I been blind? Had everyone known but me? My breath itched. Daniel lowered his voice. "Everything okay? You look pale." "Just tired," I said. "Long week." But I walked away before he could say anything else. When it was time for speeches, Emily took the stage, glowing under the fairy lights. She thanked everyone. She cried talking about motherhood. She reached for my hand and pulled me up beside her. "This man," she said, her voice trembling, "is going to be the best father in the world. I can't wait for our daughter to meet him." My heart shattered so loudly I could almost hear it. The room clapped. Cameras flashed. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. And I made a decision. Right there, right then, in front of her family, her friends, her co-workers, and the man I suspected was a real father. If she wanted a celebration, she would get one. I reached into my jacket, felt the sharp edge of the folded paper, the truth burning against my palm. Emily looked up at me, smiling through tears. "You okay?" she whispered. And I whispered back, "No." I stepped toward the microphone. The room went silent. Emily's smile froze. Daniel stiffened in his seat. I unfolded the paper. And everything inside me, every lie, every doubt, every wound, rose to the surface like fire. "This," I said, holding up the report, "is the truth about whose baby this really is." Gasps exploded through the room. Emily's face went white. Panic flooded her eyes. The world held its breath. And I was just getting started. For a second, everything froze. The guests, the lights, even the air seemed to stop moving. Emily was still clutching the MIC stand. Her breath caught halfway in her throat. Her eyes darted from me to the paper in my hand, then to the sea of confused faces staring back at her. I looked down at the DNA report. My voice felt like it belonged to someone else, someone colder, sharper, stripped of everything he ever loved. "This test," I said slowly, each word slicing the room open, "confirms with a 0% probability that I am not the father of Emily's baby." The room ruptured into chaos. People gasped. Others swore under their breath. Some covered their mouths. A baby started crying somewhere in the back. Chairs scraped. Cameras clicked. Phones immediately lifted. Of course they did. Emily took a step toward me, her face ghostly pale. "Michael, please, don't do this," she whispered, her voice cracking so softly it almost didn't reach me. But it did. Every syllable felt like fingernails scraping down my spine. I didn't look at her. Not yet. I couldn't. If I did, I feared I might break completely. Scream, collapse, or worse, forgive her on reflex like I had too many times before. Instead, I kept my eyes on the crowd. "I found this envelope in our mailbox yesterday," I continued, voice steady in a way that scared even me. "Anonymous sender. No return address." I didn't want to believe it. I told myself it had to be fake, someone trying to hurt us. So I demanded a retest. I slowly held up the second sheet. This one came directly from the hospital. Emily let out a sound, a tiny, suffocated whimper, and covered her mouth. Someone whispered loudly, "Oh my God." Across the room, Daniel shot up from his chair. His face was ashen. So that was it. Confirmation without words. I turned to him, locking eyes. "You want to tell these people," I said, "why you look more terrified than anyone else here." A ripple went through the crowd. People turned. Some gasped again. Others looked at Emily, then him, then back at the growing storm. Daniel swallowed hard, his jaw clenching. "This is between you and her," he said, voice low and shaking. "Don't drag me into." "Don't drag you." I laughed, though it came out broken. "You drag yourself into my marriage." Emily sobbed. Stop, please. Michael, don't." "You don't get to tell me to stop," I snapped. My voice echoed, loud enough to make even the photographers flinch. "You lied to me," I said, "for months, maybe longer. You slept next to me every night knowing this child wasn't mine. You let me paint her room, build her crib, read books about how to be a good father." "I was going to tell you," she cried, stumbling forward. "I swear, I was just scared." "Scared of what?" My voice cracked open. "Losing me." She shook violently. Yes, of course." "No," I cut in. "You weren't scared of losing me. You were scared of losing both of us. You wanted the safety of me and the thrill of him." A hush fell over the room again. No one dared breathe. Emily collapsed into a chair, hands shaking uncontrollably. Daniel took a hesitant step forward. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, eyes glossy. It wasn't supposed to." "To happen?" I hissed. "Or to be discovered." He had no answer. I looked around the room, at all the people she had invited. Her parents were frozen in horror. Her friends looked nauseous. Her co-workers exchanged looks that said we suspected something. And me? I felt nothing. Or maybe too much. It was like every emotion was trying to rip out of my body at once. Rage, grief, humiliation, betrayal, numbness. So I kept talking, because if I stopped, I knew I'd shatter. "I stood by this woman for 5 years," I said. "Loved her harder than I've ever loved anyone. Supported her through everything. And she repaid me with lies, with secrets, with someone else's child." Emily looked up at me then. Her eyes were swollen, smeared with mascara, pleading. "I still love you," she whispered. The words hit me like a punch. Not because I believed them, but because part of me still wanted to. It was twisted, wrong, pathetic, but that's a cruel part of betrayal. Love doesn't switch off the moment trust dies. My voice softened, just barely. "When did it start?" She froze. The question hung in the air like smoke. After a long, trembling moment, she whispered, 6 months ago." A murmur spread across the room. Someone cursed softly. I closed my eyes, letting the number sink in. 6 months. A full quarter of our marriage. A full quarter of her pregnancy. "You told me you were overwhelmed," I said. "Stressed. Emotional." I let out a humorless laugh. Turns out guilt and emotional exhaustion look the same. She burst into fresh tears. Daniel stepped forward. "I'm sorry. Man, it shouldn't have." "Shut up," I snapped without turning. "I'm not talking to you." He froze. I finally looked at Emily, really looked at her. Her hands were trembling on her stomach. Her breath came in ragged gasps. She looked like someone fighting for air under deep water. Love twisted painfully inside my chest. "How many times?" I asked quietly. Her lips parted. She tried to speak, but the truth weighed too much. "Enough times," I answered for her. She sobbed harder. "And the baby—" My throat closed. You knew she wasn't mine. She hesitated, just long enough to confirm everything. I stared at her, the woman I once trusted with my life. "I would have loved her," I said, "even if she wasn't mine. I would have raised her as my own. All you had to do was tell me the truth." Emily broke completely, folding over herself, her sobs uncontrollable. But it was too late. Far too late. I stepped back from her, from the stage, from the life I had planned. "My marriage ends today," I announced, "and so does the illusion that I was ever the father of that child." Emily reached out, but I stepped away. "Michael, please, don't leave me. I need you. I can't do this alone." "You should have thought of that," I said softly, "before you created a life with another man." Her scream tore through the hall. I turned toward the exit. People moved aside, whispering, staring, recording. As I reached the door, I heard one last sound. Not Emily crying, not Daniel cursing under his breath, but Emily's mother sobbing. You destroyed your life. Emily, you destroyed all of our lives. I didn't look back. Not once. Outside, the cold night air hit my face like a slap. But it felt real. Clean. Honest. Nothing like the life I had just walked away from. I took the DNA report out of my pocket, stared at it for a moment, then I tore it into pieces. Not out of forgiveness, but because I refused to let paper define the rest of my life. As the shredded pieces scattered across the pavement, I finally exhaled. Broken. Hollow. Free. Some betrayals end a heart. Mine ended a home. But in the ruins, there was one quiet truth I could finally hear. I survived her lies. And now, I get to rebuild my life without them.